The Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian was entitled The Rescue, where we find Din Djarin putting together a group to go rescue Grogu from Moff Gideon and the remnants of the Empire. What's up guys, and welcome to my full episode breakdown of the finale of the second season of The Mandalorian. Obviously, there will be major spoilers in this video for the episode, so if you have not seen it, please go do so before watching. We'll be talking about a lot of the major plot points, as well as clearing up some gray area about the third season of The Mandalorian and a now announced Boba Fett show. So strap in, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. The episode opens with Slave 1 in pursuit of an Imperial shuttle, with Din Djarin requiring information from Dr. Pershing. We learn here that Dr. Pershing is a high priority of the Republic, not only the Empire, because of his past as a Kaminoan cloner. We also learn later on in this episode that Moff Gideon simply wanted Grogu for his blood, with previous episodes dialogue concerning donors, meaning it's quite clear what Moff Gideon plans to do with Grogu. Either he plans to ultimately use Grogu to make himself force sensitive, or create someone else that is force sensitive. We've actually seen this attempted before in Legends continuity, where Grievous attempted to use the blood of Jedi Master Sifo Dyas in order to make him force sensitive. However, it did not work and the transfer was incomplete. Grievous though hoped that if he had midichlorians in his blood, he would be able to wield the Force, even though this did not happen. The episode continues with Boba Fett as well as Din Djarin venturing to the Mandalorian's Bo-Katan and her group. Here we get a lot of back and forth of Boba Fett not being a true Mandalorian, with one of my favorite lines in the episode of Bo-Katan telling Boba that she's heard his voice thousands of times. Of course, reference to the fact that he is a clone, a pure, unchanged clone of Jango Fett in fact. But as far as Boba Fett is concerned, he is his father's son. It's only after Din Djarin shares the information that Moff Gideon has the Darksaber and he has the location of Moff Gideon that Bo-Katan agrees to help him. Although even now their alliance is questionable, as Bo-Katan has ulterior motives, and her sole motive is to gain the Darksaber. The Darksaber that will allow her to rule and unite Mandalore once more, but we'll come back to this later on in the video. This is sort of the uniting of the Mandalorians that have thus far been scattered, and the different creeds of the Mandalorians. You have of course Boba, who doesn't claim to be a Mandalorian, but Jango was a foundling, Din Djarin, who belongs to his own creed, as well as Bo-Katan. And this is very much setting up the Mandalorians going back to take back Mandalore, which will apparently be the main driving force of the third season of The Mandalorian. On their way to Moff Gideon's Imperial cruiser, we learn a little bit more about the Dark Troopers, stating that of course that this is the third iteration of the Dark Troopers, and that now they are fully formed droids, referencing in the past that the Dark Troopers were not always droids, and that during the time of the original trilogy and the Galactic Civil War, they actually had troopers inside massive suits of armor, but that these new Dark Troopers are different, and very, very dangerous. As we see later on in the episode, Din is only able to barely defeat a Dark Trooper even with his Beskar spear. Anyway, the crew manages to infiltrate Moff Gideon's cruiser, with Moff Gideon instead deciding to abandon the bridge and go directly to Grogu, realizing what Bo-Katan wants, and not wanting to be on the bridge when Bo-Katan arrives. Instead, at the time at least, he believes that he will stand a better chance against Din Djarin, and even if he loses to Din Djarin, he has a plan. After Jin's confrontation with the Dark Trooper, he enters the cell in which Grogu is being held. This was one of my favorite scenes, and the exchange between Moff Gideon and Din Djarin is very compelling. The fact that he tries to separate the Mandalorians again, and even makes the point that the Mandalorians have now butchered and killed everyone on his bridge, all the men and women under his command, leaving only him behind, trying to appeal to the better nature of Din. Moff Gideon even offers up the child, telling Din Djarin that he has everything that he needs from it, and that now he is safely returning it to his care. Moff Gideon also talks about the importance of the Darksaber and why Bo-Katan wants it so intensely. This is a really important moment for Din. His only goal and his main priority is to attain baby Grogu. He has no interest in the Darksaber, and he will do whatever it takes in order to keep Grogu safe, even if it means disappointing Bo-Katan and failing to unite his people. Unfortunately for Din, things are not that easy, as with his back turned, Moff Gideon attacks him him. We learned by comments made by Giancarlo Esposito that Moff Gideon holds a great respect for Darth Vader, and it's clear that he took a lot of inspiration from him with the design of the Dark Troopers, as well as the fact that he wields the Darksaber in the first place. He's wild with his attacks against Din Djarin, but it's clear he has some training, although likely not under a Force wielder. The Beskar spear clashing against the Darksaber was a really cool effect, and I like how the metal heated up really quickly, and Din couldn't hold the Beskar against it for too long. In the end, Din Djarin manages to disarm Moff Gideon. However, this very likely could be a ruse, as we learn just moments later as Moff Gideon explains to Din Djarin as well as Bo-Katan on the bridge that Bo-Katan must defeat Din in single combat if she is to claim the Darksaber for her own. Now I would like to talk about a small continuity change and potential error from Star Wars Rebels. In Star Wars The Clone Wars, Maul defeated Pre Vizsla in single combat to claim the Darksaber. In Star Wars Rebels, once Bo-Katan claims the Darksaber, her claim is disputed, as she never defeated Maul in single combat. Instead, it was Ezra and Sabine that stole the Darksaber from Maul, meaning Maul was never rightfully dethroned as the leader of Mandalore. In Rebels, Sabine actually just gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, even after Sabine earns it. And it's clear that this posed a great problem for Bo-Katan, as in order to rule Mandalore, you must claim the Darksaber by defeating an opponent in single combat, not just by getting the Darksaber. As Moff Gideon explains that the Darksaber itself doesn't wield great power, but it's what the Darksaber represents to the Mandalorian people and creed, with its ability to unite them, as the Darksaber essentially represents the most powerful of the Mandalorian culture, a Mandalorian Jedi, and it was this Darksaber that united the Mandalorians in the centuries past. Therefore, it denotes one as a true leader of Mandalore. They don't have a lot of time to react and act on this, and this is something that will definitely be addressed in the third season. It's quite the big cliffhanger actually. Currently, as of the end of the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, Din Djarin is the master of the Darksaber and its rightful owner, with Bo-Katan wanting it. And I do believe that this will cause great conflict in season 3. Anyway, the Dark Troopers are able to re-enter the ship, making their way to the bridge, with Moff Gideon gloating that he's won, and that soon only he and Grogu will be alive. However, a solitary X-Wing makes its way onto the Imperial cruiser. Emerging from the X-Wing and the halls is a hooded figure wielding a lightsaber that is eventually revealed to be green in coloration, as it's the son of Vader himself, Luke Skywalker, the Jedi answering the call made by Grogu on Tython. A Jedi has in fact arrived to save the day. Let's now talk about what Luke has been up to past the point of Return of the Jedi. In various Star Wars comic books, it was revealed that Luke did not want to train Jedi right after he defeated Vader and Palpatine, believing that he was unready to take on students of his own. Instead, Luke actually sought out various Jedi temples as well as Jedi lore and artifacts. This is the time period in which Luke Skywalker stockpiled on a lot of the things that we see him in possession of in The Last Jedi. Because Luke himself has no clear Jedi master, he has to train himself, meaning that likely Grogu is one of the first apprentices that Luke Skywalker will ever take, if not the first. A lot of fans are quite concerned that Grogu was actually at the Jedi Temple when it was destroyed by Palpatine and Ben Solo, something that was explored in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic book. However, it should be noted that in all of the Rise of Kylo Ren comic book, Grogu does not appear, and there is a pretty massive gap between these events, about 16 years in fact, so it's quite possible that Grogu was somewhere else, even though he will undergo training by Luke. Speaking of Luke and his lightsaber style against the Dark Troopers, this appears to be Form 5, very much like his father. However, as Anakin Skywalker used to gem So, it looks like Luke is using the sequences of Xi'an, the less dueling-centric version of Form 5. This could just be because he's fighting against blaster-wielding enemies and droids, and isn't actually engaged in lightsaber combat, but you can tell by the wide sweeping motions. Form 5 is also known as the Way of the Krayt Dragon, or the Perseverance form. Xi'an was described as being a well-adapted to guard against blaster fire and enemy strikes without compromising one's ability to launch powerful counterattacks. The style worked best when countering attacks from multiple opponents, and was typically less effective against a single adversary. Xi'an existed at least as early as the Jedi Civil War, with its focus on repelling blaster fire. Xi'an kept in mind that the Jedi were often outnumbered by opponents and needed to defend themselves while retaining offensive capability. It is pretty clear to me in the episode that Luke is in fact using Xi'an. Luke also appears to use Force Crush on one of the Dark Troopers, typically a power that is considered to be darker in nature, something that we've seen his father as well as Mace Windu use in the past. Luke has always been a character that has tapped into some of the darker abilities, without letting them corrupt him, so it is interesting to see this ability on display here. Back to Grogu and Din Djarin though. Din Djarin finally removes his helmet, revealing himself to Grogu as a full sign of trust and family, promising Grogu that he will see him again. And I think it's not a stretch at all to say that Din Djarin and Grogu will in fact unite at some point in season 3 of The Mandalorian, which is still scheduled for release of next year, along with another show that we'll talk about in just a moment. Once the two of them say goodbye, Grogu makes his way over to R2-D2, the two of them appearing to know one another, which makes a lot of sense as Grogu was trained at the Jedi Temple as a youngling, where R2-D2 spent much of his time, that time under the ownership of Anakin Skywalker. Season 2 comes to a close with Din Djarin in possession of the Darksaber and Grogu going with Luke Skywalker. As to what the future holds for the series, we'll have to wait a year until it's released during Christmas. However, we were not left with nothing entirely, as we did get a post-credit scene. A post-credit scene that involved Boba Fett returning to Tatooine in Jabba's palace, where it's revealed that Bib Fortuna has taken control of Jabba's palace during the 5-year period after Return of the Jedi. Clearly, Boba Fett has a vendetta against Bib Fortuna, taking over the palace after he kills him in cold blood, with of course the help of Fennec Shand. This comes to a close with the announcement of a new Star Wars Disney Plus series known as The Book of Boba Fett. Many fans were concerned that the Book of Boba Fett would actually be taking over The Mandalorian Season 3, and that Season 3 would be passed over to Boba. However, we do have contradicting reports as of a few weeks ago, stating that the Boba Fett show was shooting alongside the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, and that the 3rd season of The Mandalorian was confirmed to release next year as well, meaning that we will be getting not one, but 2 Disney Plus series next year, one revolving around Boba as well as the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, which are reportedly separate projects. There is, however, the possibility that the Book of Boba Fett will in fact be the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, with the Book of Boba Fett being its subtitle. I do, however, not like this idea at all, and I do hope that the two shows release somewhat in unison. However, it is suspicious that they release around the same time. I do hope that Star Wars understands the popularity of the character of Din Djarin and Grogu, but I also feel that if they want to give the characters a year-long break and have them return in Season 4, that would also be appropriate. However, thus far it has been unconfirmed whether or not the two shows are separate, and I'm going to assume that they are. Anyway guys, that was my full episode breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 2, The Rescue. Is there anything really crucial that I missed? If so, leave it in the comments down below. Also, what did you think of the 2nd season of The Mandalorian as a whole? As always, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.